2.5 months, Joanie and Gary McGuffin have been winding their way through the forests of northern Ontario. Not hiking, but paddling the rivers and the lakes that were used by voyageurs and fur traders a couple of hundred years ago, and by native Canadians for thousands of years before that. There's still a long way to go before they lift their canoe out of the water for the final time at the end of this journey.
So we caught up with them along this rugged ancient corridor to talk about their experiences so far. From their start in Ontario's oldest provincial park to their destination on the shores of the world's largest body of fresh water, the McGuffins have carved out a path that cuts through the heart of Ontario's old-growth forest. These Canadian adventurers hope to link the historical canoe routes of Temagami and cross the watersheds of the Sturgeon, Spanish, Mississauga, Abinadong and Montreal rivers.
We've paddled many of the rivers that flow north-south into Lake Huron and into the Ottawa River, but some of them certainly haven't paddled up before, and we've never crossed over from one to another. So it's just been amazing to find the old portage trails that have obviously been there for thousands of years, and no one has been following them recently.
With a camera, a computer and a canoe, the McGuffins are bridging the gap between past and present. Hundreds of years ago, the peoples of northern Ontario communicated by word of mouth. It's something Joanie calls moccasin telegraph. By sending stories and pictures back to their website, these modern-day voyageurs can make a similar connection.
And in a way, ours is just a modern moccasin telegraph, and we're just bringing the stories to others, hoping that will kind of infuse a sense of enthusiasm to get on the hiking boots or put the canoe in the river and realize that northern Ontario has places that the rest of the world certainly doesn't have left.
The journey has been a learning experience for both website followers and the McGuffins. These ancient forests have taught them much about science, history and spirituality.
Well, we're a real lover of Grey Owl, Archie Bellini's books, and we're at one point, the last portage into a lake called Mojibon, we figured the ghost of Grey Owl was here. That's how close it was to the writings that we were recalling as we walked these portages, because Grey Owl had a great way of never really telling you exactly where he was. He never named anything, but he could describe it to a T.
But along with the pleasures of the trip come the pitfalls. Heavy packs, difficult terrain, and rough water make for long days. How do they keep their spirits up?
Well, food certainly keeps me going. It keeps me motivated, and Gary knows that because I'll mutiny the trip if we run out.
To lighten their load, the McGuffins asked friends to drop off pre-packed food parcels along the route. Among the dry essentials like pasta and oats, their package contains little luxuries, dried fruit and fruit leather, nuts and chocolate. But for their travelling companion, Kalijah, the food parcel means dog treats. With a camp stove and a little cleverness, these canoeists can even enjoy freshly baked goods now and again. I got to sample some of the treats myself.
You like honey?
Yes. But I feel ashamed to be eating your...
Oh, that's good. It lightens my load. My pack's so heavy.
That's a very generous way to look
There
at it.
you go. Well, they're good on the trail.
Boy, that's excellent.
It's always nice to have something warm and fresh like that, especially, I don't know.
Oh, no, this
the
is
bread
really...
gets moldy.
This is a luxury. This is a luxury. Freshly baked.
Yeah, I like that.
But despite all of their careful planning, there are some things that even they can't anticipate.
We did hide once on the Lady Evelyn, and one was hit right above us, and we could smell the smoke right underneath the canoe. That was... Kalijah was even shaking with us, and we held out on that storm. But it's been a pretty stable summer.
Perhaps the biggest surprise has been the change in the landscape itself. Where forests once stood, a single pine now exists. Even the water has been affected with changes in color, level, and direction. Gary says the journals of voyageurs and trappers paint a different picture from the one they're seeing today.
Sometimes that can be really sad because you read about a description of a set of rapids that to this person was the best set of rapids they'd seen in 500 miles of traveling through the interior of northern Ontario, and it's been blocked up by it's now a head pond and blocked up by a dam, and we're just traveling over the tops of tree stumps. That's all you're seeing.
you know, you have to remember that, or we have to remember as we come across these things, that people were doing what was considered, and you know, as an honorable thing, like they were putting something into the building of the nation, and it was thought that the forest would go on forever. And I guess in a way that's what our journey was about too, was to discover where are the original pieces of this Great Lakes St. Lawrence forest. I mean, it was a forest once so vast, and we see just pockets of that original forest now. So, you know, the recent logging history is what, you know, altered that landscape.
While some areas remain scarred, others are quietly evolving. Joanie says there's a real spirit in these old forests, and that spirit holds promise.
I said to Gary a few days ago, I feel like I have a great sense of hope about Northern Ontario. I think we've got something here that the rest of the world certainly doesn't have, and you know, sometimes you just feel like there's just a little bit left, but I feel like there's a lot.